Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article from the Federalist dated June 20th, and it is entitled Feminism Killed the Female-Led Action Movie. And the reason that this article is coming out is because that Star Wars show, The Acolyte, has just come out recently, and of course it's all the same debates are coming up about this sort of thing, about, the people don't like female action heroes, never mind the, beyond numerous examples of action roles that females have been in of movies that people love, like, Aliens, for example. So let's just go ahead and see what this says. It says, as the female-led action hero has become obsessed with fighting the patriarchy, both male and female audiences have become less interested. It says, female-led action movies are dying as a genre. This is clear after watching the recent box office failure of Furiosa, its opening weekend. Its box office only got worse the following weeks, despite the massive hype for the prequel follow-up to the beloved Mad Max Fury Road. So it's hard to argue that this isn't a part of a trend. While Captain Marvel made $1 billion at the box office, later female-led action movies have increasingly underperformed or bombed, from Charlie's Angels in 2019 to Black Widow to Birds of Prey to The Marvels and now Furiosa. It's hard to deny there is a common thread in these female-led action films. And before I continue, I'm going to say that Captain Marvel made $1 billion because it was sandwiched between Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. And the producers of the movie and the director, I believe the directors, but everybody at Marvel was basically saying, you need to see Captain Marvel to understand Endgame, which I've never seen Captain Marvel. It's the only Phase 1, or I should say Infinity Saga Marvel movie that I have not seen, and I understood Endgame perfectly. As long as you understand that there's a Captain Marvel movie that happened and she was introduced into the universe, you don't need to see the movie. Okay, it made no difference when I watched Endgame. Anyway, just particularly as other films with weak openings out around the same time, such as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Garfield, and If, managed to have much better holds in their later weeks. Likewise, Bad Boys 4, a male-led action movie with a much lower critic score and positive word of mouth, had a much higher box office only weeks later. But it hasn't always been this way. Female-led action films have traditionally done quite well. Terminator, Aliens, Tomb Raider, the original Charlie's Angels, it almost said the originator as I was looking at Terminator, it says the original Charlie's Angels, Wonder Woman, and The Hunger Games have all been hits with audiences. The good news is we know why this is happening, which means there are relatively simple solutions. Whether Hollywood will do it is another matter entirely. It says boy movies versus girl movies. As men have always been the majority audience for female-led action films. While you can argue that movies like Alien and Terminator weren't overtly female-led until the end of their films, their sequels, Aliens and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, my favorite movie of all time, is equally beloved by men, certainly did lean into those parts. This is not to say men have ever loved female-led action films as much as they loved male-led action films, but they've always loved them more than women do. Action movies, like superhero movies, sports movies, and westerns, are about facing your own inner weaknesses and flaws and conquering them so you can conquer an external force that threatens what you love. Likewise, genres that appeal more to women, such as romantic comedies, dramas, and princess stories, are about people who start out either as strangers or estranged from each other and who, in the end, become united by love. Dr. Jonathan Haidt addressed this cross-cultural phenomenon in his new book, The Anxious Generation, as representing agency versus communion values. This is one reason boys tend to get addicted to video games, which emphasize agency values, while girls struggle with social media addictions, which emphasize communion values. This also explains the exceptions to the rule that men like female-led action movies more than women. Consider The Hunger Games and the original Wonder Woman. Both focused heavily on their romantic relationships with their male co-stars, and the desire for relationships with others, whether it was romantic or familial, formed the motivating basis of their stories. And it says a narrative shift. But all that changed when female-led action films pushed anti-male and overtly feminist views of both men and women. Because the first shift was when female-led action movies set out to replace male franchise characters rather than introducing new ones. Ghostbusters replaced the original members with an all-female cast. Star Wars replaced their male franchise leads with female ones. Captain Marvel was touted as the Marvel Universe's most powerful member and the original inspiration for the Avengers. Yeah, retcons, because that's not what happened in the comics. It says many of these replacements were humiliating in nature. As Luke Skywalker and Han Solo were portrayed as broken losers after their adventures ended in the previous movies, but not Leia. Because Captain Marvel largely portrayed Nick Fury as a joke, even though he was a character that everybody loved from like all the other movies that he was in, and they turned him into a punchline. And even though I haven't seen the movie, I've seen clips, and I've seen those. The She-Hulk humiliated Bruce Banner and asserted repeatedly, with the show's endorsement, that she was better than he was, often because she was a woman. Harley Quinn claimed she came up with all of Joker's best tricks. Even Charlie's Angels revealed that Bosley was a secret villain before replacing him with a woman, and revealing that Charlie was a woman all along, too. As the movie's storylines and the filmmakers themselves encourage viewers to see these stories of female empowerment as explicit feminist messages that there are no differences between men and women, except when women were better, women's problems are all due to the patriarchy, etc. When men objected to or even showed a lack of interest in any of these movies, they were called sexist. Yeah, it's not sexism, it's just an interest thing or not. Okay, I mean, in that case, like any woman that's not going to see a male action movie is a sexist, and I don't think that's accurate either, but it works both ways. It says Brie Larson, or Captain Marvel, said she didn't want to hear any male criticism of female-led movies because it wasn't made for you, and I absolutely loathe that argument. Okay, if you're making a movie that's probably beyond G rating or PG rating, it's made for, or actually, let's do it the reverse way. I'm thinking the wrong way. If you're making a movie that's R-rated, that's probably for a specific group of people in some ways, because like adults, whereas like everything else is kind of for everybody. So you can't just sit here and make a movie and then just go, oh wait, it's not for you, men. And then when men go, okay, we're not going to go see that movie, then they cry about their movie bombing, not Captain Marvel, because as I said before, it made $1 billion, but they cry about it bombing. And it's like, well, why didn't men go see it? It's like, you told us not to, and we didn't, and you're pissed that we didn't. That's not correct. That makes no sense. It says, while room was given for people to dislike the movies for artistic reasons, any discussion of specific problems with anti-male bias or disrespect of male characters was framed as misogyny, or the problems with having a male-dominated fan base, as Kathleen Kennedy put it. And why hasn't she been fired as Lucasfilm head yet? Anyway, it says, this rebranding of female-led action films as feminist myths came at exactly the time that men have been turning against feminism, partly because men are increasingly treated as second-class citizens compared to women. The new generation of men is less likely to succeed in school and get a college degree than women, which means less likely to get a high-paying job, which often means not as likely to be chosen by women for marriage. Much of this is the fault of schools, which dramatically favor women's learning styles, and workplaces, where gender-biased hiring for the first time favors women over men. This means men see the anti-male bias in their fantasy as reflective of the anti-male bias they see in their own lives, and pushing back on the perceived anti-male media, they feel like they are fighting back against the, like it says, against the, not the man, but the woman. It says, this pro-woman culture war push has not made female-led action films more popular with women. Since this push, the primary audiences for these films remain male, even down to the Marvels and Furiosa, even as men's interest in women-led action films has diminished. Women obviously aren't turned off by feminist politics in movies, as box office hits like Barbie have shown. I haven't seen that and don't have any intention of seeing it, but clearly sexual politics isn't enough to overcome women's dislike of action movies geared toward men's tastes. It's ironic because the Hunger Games and Wonder Woman already showed what action movies designed for women's tastes looked like. Hollywood just opted not to make those movies. Says, will Hollywood change course? The good news is that this toxic brand is a simple fix. Bring back female-led action movies with a strong male co-lead, especially if there's a romantic interest. Think Steve Trevor if he didn't die. Hollywood execs should also signal a move away from anti-male rhetoric in female-led action movies and stop calling men sexist if they don't like their movies. Yeah, I don't see that happening. Hollywood has a problem with learning lessons. They always tend to learn the wrong lessons from things. So they're just going to keep doing what they're doing, and anything else would be a total surprise. It says, this isn't to say action movies shouldn't still offer women something as well. Keep relationships, whether that's romantic or otherwise, at the center of the story. How does this movie center around people we care about and lead to reconciliation and restoration, i.e. communion, rather than just a person who kills everyone and ends up alone or dying themselves? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is a good example of an action movie built around reconciliation and love between family being primary. Yeah, that was a good movie. I mean, I don't think it was a Best Picture winner worthy, that good of a movie. And I've always said that, but I enjoyed it. And it's a wacky movie. If you haven't seen it and you're into wacky movies, it's a sci-fi movie. It was like a sci-fi action drama, I guess is the best way I could put it. With some really, really good performances in it from the entire cast. But again, I don't think it was Best Picture worthy. But it's a fun little movie. But again, it is a little wacky. As it's possible to make female-led action films that don't denigrate men because that's something male-led action films have done historically in reverse. Whether it's Princess Leia, Pepper Potts, Michaela from the original Transformers, Arwen or Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, or Nakia from Black Panther, male-led action films have long been inclusive of women. There's no reason why it can't work the other way around. Correct. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Do you think that feminism killed the female-led action movie? It kind of really, not just based on this article, but it seems like, yeah, it really kind of has. And then just the culture commentators out there, the channels that I listen to, definitely seem to agree with this statement. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.